right. Okay, what are we doing here? Okay, what's going on here? Okay, bear with me here. Okay, here we go. Okay, sorry about that, people. I'm sorry about that. I was having some technical difficulties. We should be okay now. We should be okay now. Hopefully everything is okay, and hopefully you all can see everything that I see right now. And it should be the a YouTube search should see some videos. Welcome back. It is Friday. Happy Friday to everybody. I feel good. The weekend is finally here. Got my work day out of the way. Now I can kick back and relax and focus on this nuttery. Our emergence, the anti-dog people, is alongside with the emergence of other social groups who's starting to question the lunacy that has been pushed as the norm. And I like it. One of those stories came from a sergeant, a police officer. Okay, this is the type of thing I look for all the time. I want to see police officers or hear from police officers and others who deal with dogs to come out and speak out against dogs, because they know better than everyone else how dangerous these things are and how much we should not trust them. Okay? So this story, I think it broke like a week or so ago. I think they've been talking about this for a while. For a few months, they've been talking about banning. Okay? They've been talking about banning police dogs. This article surfaced today. And I'm going to be dealing with the testimony of this sergeant. Okay, I want to get his name right. Sergeant Sean Allen is a member of the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Department of Corrections. His commentary originally appeared in the San Jose Mercury News. All right. The headline: Bay Area Voice. There's no place in police work for dogs trained to bite. Subtitle: Bill would bar law enforcement agencies from using police dogs to control crowds or apprehend suspects. This should have happened a long time ago. It should have happened already. We should not be talking about a bill possibly being passed. No, we need to. This should have been done already. Because this is common sense. There's no place in police work for dogs trained to attack people. That really goes against everything we claim to stand for. It goes against all of our rights, our freedoms, against the Constitution. And I feel like this sergeant, this officer, gave a good argument as to why these things have no place in police work. That's why I say, a lot of people say dogs should be banned and it should only be police officers who use them. No. Because when you use dogs, you're treating people like dogs. You're treating people like dogs. And that includes people who are unarmed who are surrendering, who are following your instructions. Several people like that end up attacked. Some of you may have seen this video that surfaced recently. Okay. Looks like I lost it. Police dog attack. If you search that, police dog attack, at the very top, you'll see this video right here. This was uploaded about a year ago. And this attack led to a $325,000 settlement for this man. Now I want y'all to look at this. People, this is a little skinny, frail, old man. This is an elderly man right here. But check this out.
Stop moving! Stop! Stop! Turn around! Turn around! I'm gonna set my dog in a bit. Turn around! Turn around! Turn around! Get on the ground! Get on the ground!
Okay, I have to be careful. I don't want to show the actual attack, but the dog just runs up. But pay close attention to the fact that the old man was on his knees. There was no need for a dog. But this dog runs up and starts mauling him. Even after the man is face down, after he's in cuffs, the police officer continues to allow the dog to maul his leg. Now, this is what we're talking about. People who are against police officers using dogs. This is one of the things that we're talking about. I've been waiting for the right moment or story, article to talk about this, and I'm glad it's here. There's no place in police work for dogs trained to bite. And this is from a man with 30 years in law enforcement. He said he has a lifetime of owning and handling highly trained dogs, police dogs. Okay? Several decades. He said he's seen a lot of people attacked. He's seen bones get broken and cracked. Ligaments and flesh gets torn. Dogs will bite entire chunks of meat out of your body. Just listening to an attack not long ago of a lady who was out walking or jogging, got attacked by a pack of dogs down in Mississippi. But this sergeant says that when a police dog is let loose, someone goes to the hospital. California police dogs injure more people each year than are hurt by the batons and tasers that the officers use. Most of the people that are attacked by police dogs are unarmed. So think about this. This is a case where a cop repeatedly stabs a citizen who's unarmed. Under no circumstances should that be acceptable. And they can deploy these dogs really at any moment, even if you're surrendering. They've been known, okay, now this is the police officer talking. He said most of the people police dogs hurt are unarmed. They've been known to attack their handlers, fellow officers, and innocent bystanders, as well as criminal suspects. And their victims are disproportionately people of color. Now, whenever people say people of color, that is a code phrase for black. They might, try to imply that they're talking about all non-whites. But what I've learned in my lifetime is that usually when people use this phrase, they're specifically talking about black Americans. Now, when human officers use force, pay close attention to this, please. This is very serious. When human officers use force, their actions are judged against policies that require using the least amount of force necessary to gain control of the situation. There you go. Now we talking. We getting warmed up now. Oh yeah. Welcome to another live stream. Oh, I'm ready to sink my teeth into this. I let out a huge sigh of relief when I read this, people. I was like, oh, thank goodness. Finally somebody says it. The obvious. Police officers are trained to use the least amount of force necessary to gain control of a situation. How many of y'all remember this recent story that surfaced of a 14-year-old black boy who had a dog deployed on him? When the police officer saw the 14-year-old was face down, laying on the ground in a completely submissive posture, almost surrendering already, lying down, face down. Here it was spotted lying down on the ground. Now, the cop was responding to a or home invasion or something like that, some type of call. And when he saw this 14-year-old, he didn't say nothing. Didn't tell him to freeze. Didn't announce his presence. Nothing. The cop simply saw the 14-year-old and released his dog. Now, as the boy was being attacked, at one point, an officer shouted, "Stop fighting my dog," despite video showing the teen lying still with one arm behind his back and the other in the dog's mouth. Crazy stuff. Yeah, this just surfaced not long ago, March 8th, 2023. Okay, now history is replete with stories of very young kids. 14, you're still a kid, being brutally attacked. Usually black males. Young black males are usually like they get treated like grown men, big grown, rusty, dusty men. Oh yeah, crazy stuff. Okay, so that just happened recently. How do you think an officer, a police officer, would look if he saw a 14-year-old lying on his face and then went up to the 14-year-old and started to beat the 14-year-old with his baton? This goes back to what I said about dogs being used for protection. they're not sufficient to use for protection because they're not intelligent. They attack whoever they see. Nobody needs that type of protection. Most people who come to your home are friends or family. So there's no place for a dog because you're going to put all of them at risk whenever they visit your home. And that is why that's the second largest attack victim demographic, is when people go over to other people's home who have dogs. So I'm happy, very happy he pointed this out. That's crucial. That's very important. And we hold human police officers, we hold them up to the highest scrutiny. You know, they have the green light to end our life. And there's going to be a lot of protection around them. And they're instructed. And everyone expects police officers to use the appropriate amount of restraint or aggression, force necessary to gain control of a situation. He says, not so with police dogs. Our state laws and regulations are silent when it comes to police dogs, even though they often use far higher levels of force than humans. This is what I'm saying. Why is it acceptable to repeatedly stab someone who's unarmed and surrendering? Why is it acceptable to repeatedly stab those people? But it's unacceptable when a person just goes up and starts stabbing them. Could you imagine a police officer just going up and stabbing? Even if the person was resisting arrest. Let's say you got an unarmed person resisting arrest. Resisting arrest, that's one of the main reasons why they deploy. Well, let me not say that because I haven't done any research to find that out. But in a lot of scenarios, that is the alleged reason. Resisting arrest. Could you imagine a cop who just started to stab, repeatedly stab, just pull out a knife and start to stab a person for resisting arrest, for not putting their hands behind their back, even though they've been patted down and seen they're unarmed? So why do we give a green light to dogs? Another good example of how dogs are not only humanized, they're beyond being humanized. They're treated as if they are superior to human beings. And all people should be disgusted. Everyone. Okay? So if the dog can do things to a person that a person, even a police officer, can't do, then the dog is being treated as if it's superior to people. That's irrefutable. You all should be outraged. According to California Attorney General, police dogs statewide account for more than 1 in 10 uses of force that results in serious injury each year. Okay, this is just California, I think, if I'm not mistaken, right? The attorney is from California. Nationally, more than 3,500 people a year are hurt by police dogs so badly they need treatment in a hospital emergency room. Y'all remember I just shared a story not long ago of a police dog attacking random people. Exactly the type of behavior that they tell us you're not going to see from a highly trained dog. A police dog. roaming the community, launching random attacks. Training is worthless, and it's not reliable. No amount of training will give you control over a dog's brain. The only thing you can do is influence its behavior in most circumstances, if that. But your training of a dog, that's not going to keep anyone safe. Goes on, says, well-trained dogs can be valuable tools for police searching for a lost child or detecting narcotics. But a growing coalition of civil rights and police reform advocates are calling for an end to the use of police dogs for apprehension and crowd control. And my fellow young black males out there, I want y'all to sidestep some of these traps that have been set for you. It will call on you to be more responsible and disciplined than other groups of people. Right? Don't fall into this trap where they're just itching to release a dog on you. Stay away from lifestyles that would lead to this. Work. Don't rob. A few years ago, I had a cousin that I grew up with, killed, dead, killed because he was robbed. That is, you are the most pathetic type of person if you're willing to do that. We, black people, we come from a bloodline of hard workers. Hard workers. Look at yourself as a worker. Okay? This is what, yeah, they want to release a dog on you. They want you to give up and try to cut corners. Get rich quick. Just dying for an opportunity to release a dog on you. Y'all remember that story just a few months ago down there, I think is in Alabama or Mississippi, where they released the dog on this man who was working on the home. It was his sister's or relative's home. And they said as the dog was attacking them, they were laughing. The cops were laughing about it and never called that dog off of them. So my point is, dogs are used as weapons. That's irrefutable. And they're effective as weapons. So how can you argue that it's acceptable to have a dog inside of a home where kids reside? You can't have a gun. If a child's in the home, you can't have a gun. Why? Because it's a weapon. Dogs are not weapons. Dogs are proven weapons. Wow. So obviously, dogs are useful if you want to find a lost child or detect narcotics, but there are alternatives, and we should use those alternatives. Most definitely. Dogs may be man's best friend, this officer says, but their use in law enforcement has its roots in the worst chapter in our history, slavery. Before the Civil War, dog patrols hunted down and captured runaway slaves in southern states. And during the civil rights movement of the 60s, police used dogs to brutally. There was a there was a video. What did I do with that thing? How many of y'all saw this? Y'all remember I talked about this. No, I didn't. Did I? I don't remember. I don't remember talking about this. But this guy, this suspected racist guy, just bullying people, bullying these kids.
Imagine a cop being so violent that his own canine decides to attack him rather than the potential suspect. Here it is.
You want to go?
This dude, see, this is a sick individual. These young people, these is kids. And he got his grown out there with a dog trying to harass people, literally attacking people. Now look, this guy, there was some words exchanged or something, and the cops started following him. Then grabs him. Oh, Lord. So he slams him down. The dog started to attack the cop. Now, there's nothing new about that. A lot of cops have been attacked by police dogs. Several times, it's been their own police dog. Now, if police officers are being attacked by these things, how can you argue that they're acceptable to be used by police officers, acceptable as pets, to be inside a home? And listen, they advertise dogs to kids. That's their primary targets. They advertise them to kids just like they would a toy. Is that smart? Looking at how proven of a real weapon dogs are, and dogs are the least controllable of all weapons. A gun is not going to discharge unless you pull the trigger. Mace is not going to spray unless you spray it. Right? You got to push the button down. Squeeze it. The baton. It's not going to whack anybody across the head unless you grab it, hold it, and swing it. Dogs are the least controllable weapons, and they are deadly. They inflict the most damage. How can you argue that these things are acceptable in society at all? I have to go beyond just police departments not using dogs. They're not sufficient to use for anything. Police work, pets, protection, stress, anxiety, nothing. They make everything worse, less efficient, or they'll just completely destroy whatever it is. How did this highly trained dog end up attacking this big, dumb, crazy, sick police officer? How did that happen? That's the intelligent dog. That's the result of rigorous training. Right? This is the behavior of a dog trained at the highest level. Okay? Got it. And that dog was determined. It knew exactly who it was biting. Now, if you dog lovers, if you disagree, if you think the dog just blacked out and started to randomly attack, and that's why it was attacking the police officer, that does not help your case. Because that adds validity to the argument that they're insufficient to use as protection and as weapons for cops, for anything. Yeah, this thing knew exactly who it was attacking. It knew what it was doing. How dumb can you get? How dumb can you get? There's no place in law enforcement for dogs. Now, you might say that I don't have anything to worry about because I'm not a criminal, and I'm not. I've done things, I've committed crimes in my life, but as of right now, my record is completely clean. And I've been working for a living well over 2 decades. But a lot of people are attacked and injured by police dogs, even though they didn't commit a crime. And all it takes is one mutilization. Is that a word? Is it mutilization? All it takes is for you to be mutilated once. Right? So yeah, this is worth talking about. It's worth pointing out. And they need to do the right thing and ban dogs from all police departments. All of them. We've seen these crazy cases. And a lot of them are just like this one that we saw, where a dog is deployed for no reason, where you clearly don't need no dog. So many cases. A dog mauling someone, even while the person is in handcuffs. Worst case scenario is that you have to release a dog because a person is somewhere with a gun. Well, if they have a gun, they can just shoot your dog. Yeah? So you don't need it. Simple as that. Now, wait a minute. Okay. Now, wait a minute. No, I don't want to listen to that. This is just another article on from Fox News dealing with the ban to possibly ban dogs. It's only in California. But, you know, California is the testing ground for new laws. Right? They always test it out in California first for whatever reason. Now, y'all have to bear with me here. Looks like, oh, here we go right here. Oh, yeah. Chief opposes. So you got one cop here, police chief, opposes the ban. And I knew that would happen. There's no surprise. I knew that would happen. And that's okay. We always have opponents. It's all about how good of an argument you have and how well you discredit the alternatives. And that's impossible. It's always smarter to use something that doesn't have a brain of its own, especially when it's as powerful, quick, deadly as dogs. There's no excuse. No excuse at all. But listen, banning, getting rid of police dogs, it's not just a response to racism. It's not just a response to, hey, there are a disproportionate number of blacks attacked by dogs. No, removing these things from police departments, that's in everybody's best interest. Everybody's. So, yeah, they talk about racial bias. Even in the other reports, I think Fox covered it. They talk about the racial bias involved. We'll see. If it happens in California, most likely it will spread to the rest of the country, right? Eventually. But they say Black American men are more likely to be injured by police dogs than other citizens. But these things should be banned. It's not just a race issue. It's not just in response to race. I mean, you're stupid if you're not a black male and you're okay with these things in society. They talking. I don't like this narrative where they're talking as if only black males should be against dogs. Oh yeah, dogs don't like black males. Nah, everybody need to be against dogs. Don't be stupid. This ain't no black thing. Dogs, whether they're on the police force or not, that ain't just no black problem. I just showed you this old man. Look, if they don't care about old white men, they don't care about nobody. Yeah, we need to unpack this slow, man. This is serious. Now, this new bill is Assembly Bill 742. It would bar law enforcement agencies from using police dogs to control crowds or apprehend suspects. Now, as we all know, sometimes, and this took place often during the civil rights movement, the late 60s, early 70s, where Black Americans would have unarmed, peaceful protests and would have dogs released on them. Have dogs, unarmed citizens having peaceful protests, and would have dogs sicked on them. You see? But everybody should have a problem with that. It's all about the use of the dog by law enforcement officers. And if you see that there's a possibility for abuse and a denying of people's rights, and it's far too easy, all the cop has to do is just, release him. Could probably cover it up, could probably lie on the victim. That opens the door for too much crime. Having these brainless mutants in law enforcement. Now, what is this? Sponsored by the American Civil scheduled to be heard. Okay, when is it scheduled to be? Okay. Opponents of the legislation contend that dogs can sometimes protect human officers from danger. Well, a lot of things can protect them. Listen, we don't need something that just attacks random people. Lord, it's like, what is going on here? Let me see. I want to find that story where this goofy cop, there was another cop who had to shoot his dog because it attacked him. He had to shoot it to save his own life. Let me find this thing here. There's been all kinds of stories, man. Where is that? Where is that story? There are just a whole bunch of them. Please. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So this is important. Each one of these cases is another reason why they should not be used. And what is all these goofy stories popping up? I just had this story before I went live. What did I do with it? I think this is it. Yeah, I reported on this. Was it in? I didn't think it was in Staten Island though. Kills dog of being attacked. No, I don't think this was a police dog. But it was a German Shepherd. It's a German Shepherd. Of course, cops use German Shepherds. Yeah, there are a bunch of stories like that. Where the police officer, attacked by his own dog. But this police officer, he could not stop the attack. The attack went on for so long, he had to pull out his gun. He had to get his gun and shoot it as it was attacking him. Now, you're stupid if you want to use something like that as a weapon. And it's beyond stupid. That's reckless. Reckless, irresponsible, dumb. Yeah, you can say that again. No place in law enforcement. What is that? Yeah, horrible, horrible stuff. Bear with me here. I want to hear this. This is some story just surfaced here. An attack caught on camera. I think this is the one I was talking about earlier.
Are badly injured, and it's caught on camera. The attack happened March 19th, just east of Sardis, Mississippi.
WRG's Mike Sirianni talked with people in the neighborhood who are afraid and frustrated over aggressive dogs just running loose. And a warning, while this video in this story is somewhat blurry, it is still disturbing to watch.
It was disgusting how bad she was tore up by them dogs.
This man does not want to be identified. His home security camera
does not want to be identified.
Captured footage of this woman being attacked by dogs on Camille Street in Panola County. The video, taken from a long distance, is blurry.
Now, this is a woman all by herself, peacefully minding her business. Dogs attack people like this. If you don't have enough brains to know that you're not supposed to attack random people, you shouldn't be in society at all. You shouldn't be used for anything. You're just totally worthless. Counterproductive. Counterproductive. It's against our interests to keep creatures, deadly creatures like this in society.
Once she gets down to about this point, you'll see the dogs come out from the right, and then
So she mind her business. Dogs come out of nowhere, start attacking her. Unprovoked. Unprovoked. But the dog behaviorists and the veterinarians and the dog trainers, they have access to special information where they found out that this was actually a provoked dog attack. Yeah, I don't know where they're getting this from, but this is what they say. Some of them have said that all dogs attack only when provoked. Oh boy.
looks like she's trying to defend herself from them before they take her to the ground. There were chunks of meat taken out of her arm.
Chunks of meat taken out of her arm. Again, why would you inflict damage like this on a person who's surrendering? Let's say the person ran from the cops and then surrendered. People like that have the dogs sicked on them. It's the most unnecessary and really a violation of our rights. It's a violation. I don't want to be laying out in my lawn someday, in my own backyard. Some goofy cop sees me laid out in my backyard and releases a dog on me. And I don't want that to happen to anybody in my family, anybody I know, period, or don't know. Don't nobody deserve to be randomly attacked. And it's a deadly, lethal attack. And that's all dogs do. Dogs are not smart enough to attack for a justified reason. They're not smart enough.
Within 15 to 20 minutes, deputies and EMTs were on the scene.
But right across the street is where she was laying in the grass. Blood everywhere.
Ann Bailey knows the victim, who lives nearby and routinely walks along
Man, she's on the ground. She on the ground right now. Laid out. This look like it's broad daylight. Attacked for absolutely no reason at all. It is not smart to have killing machines on the police force like this. That's an outrage. And this pushback against dogs being used by cops, law enforcement, it should have happened a long time ago. There is so much work to be done. Yeah, sometimes I get frustrated. There's so much work to be done.
Beale Street.
She had come to visit me, but I hadn't made it.
And it looked like she passed out. She was moving and then she just stopped moving.
Home yet. And I saw her laying on the outside and her arms, blood everywhere. She was a mess.
People in this neighborhood say they have...
Oh, man, look at that. It's like 5. There's 5 on screen right now.
Reached out to the sheriff for help on many occasions. It's an issue that forced this man to...
It's down... Oh, wait a minute. Listen to this.
Arm himself.
He was a mess.
People in this neighborhood say they have reached out to the sheriff for help on many occasions. It's an issue that forced this man to arm himself recently when threatened by a stray dog.
Now, we've heard this. We just heard this. Was it yesterday? Day before yesterday? Where only after the dog attack, now that person makes sure that they're armed when they go outside. Armed for the dogs. So only after tragedy did this man carry a gun. But with us, yeah, we don't need a bad experience first. We're smart enough to examine stories like this and conclude that we need to be armed with something. At the very least, be aware. At the very least, be aware. Because if he was at least aware, he could have made sure that he was inside of a vehicle, maybe walking with someone else who could have been armed, had some type of protection, someone there. But these people who get attacked, you notice, quite often they're all by themselves. Kaylee Waltman, who had her arms and legs empty, she's walking by herself. That other lady who was mutilated, by herself. People just walking willy-nilly, no weapon, no nothing. That you don't even have mace, not a knife. Man. So, now, if you carry a gun like this man is, the doctors tell you you have a mental disorder called cynophobia, and that your fear of dogs is a sign of your mental illness. What you think about that?
I was told some of the dogs from the March 19th attack were found on Camille Street. That's where Panola County deputies came to pick them up.
One of the dogs involved.
That is so evil. to just randomly attack people. That's one of the most wicked crimes possible. I despise anything that launches random attacks. And I don't understand why everyone else doesn't as well. Why don't you despise creatures that have it in them to launch random, unprovoked attacks? I just don't get it. And these things are so primitive and beneath us that they prefer to attack our kids. Should be ashamed of yourself. Defending the presence of these things.
Tried to bite my deputy, and my deputy had to put the dog down.
Sheriff Shane Phelps says stray dog complaints are some of the most frequent calls deputies respond to.
This is a bully breed. Stray bully breeds down there in Mississippi. You stay down in Mississippi, you already know. Anybody who follows this channel, you know better than to be walking out in the woods by yourself unarmed. Man, so many people could have saved themselves had they been one of us. Jacqueline Duran, Brooklyn Curry, but no. And it's so crazy that not even those attacks has changed them. They're still dog lovers.
Too, and he understands the public's frustration, but the county has no leash law and no shelter.
Did you hear that? Panola County in Mississippi has no leash law and no shelter. My Crusaders down in Mississippi, get armed, stay armed. This sounds like a jungle. No shelters, and there's no leash law? What are y'all doing down there? Lord.
And some dog owners who don't seem to care.
Some dog owners who don't seem to care. Nobody cares. Of course dog owners don't care. That's why you have to arm yourself. Look, I'm not making this rule. This is just the obvious response to reality. When we step outside of our front door, we need to be aware and be armed, because we have brainless, primitive killers everywhere. Don't tell me that I have a mental disorder because I want to avoid places where these things are. What are you talking about? Oh, you have a dog? You have a dog? You want me to come to your home? No, thank you. No, thank you. That's how I roll. You can think something is wrong with me if you want. That's fine. But when you get mutilated, when your face gets rearranged, right? Remember that. Remember that I'm the one who had the mental problem for avoiding the same thing that rearranged your face.
I think that if you have a dog, then you should be responsible for taking care of that dog.
Now stop that. Stop with that talk right there. Let me back that up.
County might understands the public's frustration, but the county has no leash law and no shelter, and some dog owners who don't seem to care.
I think that if you have a dog, then you should be responsible for taking care of that dog.
In Panola County.
He said if you have a dog, then you should be responsible of taking care of that dog. That's an irresponsible thing to say. During a report of a dog attack, an unprovoked attack against a woman, I really don't understand. Where is our humanity? Where is it? I'm not seeing it. What happened to that good old-fashioned belief that women and children are protected, the most well-protected groups in the country? What happened to that? There's basically no outrage in response to stories like this. It's just us. Where are the major media outlets? They're not talking. They should be saying the same thing that we're saying. Now, back to what he just said. Let me back this up.
County has no leash law and no shelter, and some dog owners who don't seem to care.
I think that if you have a dog, then you should be responsible for taking care of that dog.
No, that's not true. See, this is dishonesty. Stop playing games. No, what you meant to say, let me correct that for you. What you meant to say is that if you own a dog, then you're responsible to protect people from it. It's your responsibility to restrain it, to hold it and keep it from attacking people. That's what you meant to say. And that is what he's saying, period. Take care of that dog. If you have a dog, it's your responsibility to take care of the dog. This is a dog attack story. This is not a story about a malnourished dog. That phrase don't even match this report. Okay, we talking about a dog attack. So the message to send out to dog owners is that if you own a dog, it's your job to protect people from it. Now, if you have to make a statement like that, then we need to examine whatever you are in possession of that's so dangerous that you have to, at all times, restrain it, hold it back, and keep it from attacking people. Protect everyone else from it. We have a problem. Okay? That sounds exactly like a creature that is a menace to society. A menace. Look at how many signs do we need, man? You got random attacks like this. You got post office workers who are saying, we're not going to deliver to this block anymore. You got all post offices around the country warning people, keep your dog away from the mailman. That's all they're saying, people. They're saying hey, when our mailman or mailwoman comes to your door, be sure to restrain your dog. Right? Please prevent your dog from attacking our mail worker. Well, let me see. Let me see. Mail. Deliver. Stop. Yeah. Here we go. Yeah, there's a number of like cities, different areas where they have stopped delivering mail. Here's one right here. USPS stops delivering mail to neighborhood after mailman attacked by dog. So you got different post offices not only warning people that they're going to stop delivering mail, but actually doing it. So this is a proven menace to society, a proven danger, a proven threat. You got police officers who are always shooting dogs. Okay? If this is a courtroom, this is my case. It's my argument against dogs. They are a threat, they are a danger, and you know it. What's my proof? What's my evidence? You got cops who kill them, shoot them nonstop. If a cop is not shooting some random dog, they're shooting their own police dog. But they called it a pandemic. All the dogs that get shot by cops. Not long ago, you had that electrical worker who was mauled. Electrical workers, people who are contributing to society, these are the people who get attacked. And these creatures are so brainless. They don't know, they're not even aware of how harmless the people are that they attack. You can't tell me something like this belongs in a police department. That is the worst possible mentality for a deadly creature in law enforcement. You don't want no nut job as a police officer. A dog is worse. So there are a number of different areas that have stopped delivering mail. Look at all these dogs that get euthanized for being too aggressive. All over the country, every year. Shared that stat yesterday. 1.5 million dogs euthanized every year. Not all of those deaths are because of a lack of adopters. Quite often, those dogs are too aggressive. We got more proof, more evidence than we need to prove that these things are indeed a threat and that they violate our laws right now. Right now. A despicable crime. This is a despicable crime. California's most recent use of force statistics tell a different story. Statewide, only 20% of incidents that led to a severe injury by a police dog began as a crime in progress. 20% of incidents that led to a dog attack injury began as a crime. So most of the cases were cases where it was unnecessary. Yeah, I'm sure it was unnecessary to repeatedly stab people. Yeah, I could have told you that. In the Bay Area, a number of police dog bites, resulted in investigations of use of police dogs. Simple fact is, here you go. Oh yeah, let's highlight this. He says, the simple fact is, we can do our jobs without dogs. This coming from a police officer of 30 years who been dealing with dogs his whole life, who just sat up here and said he still loves dogs. He said cops can do their jobs without dogs. Thank you. Thank you very much. So not only are dogs useless as service animals, useless as therapy animals, useless as protectors, they're useless even as police officers. They're useless at everything. They're good for nothing. I take that back. The only thing they're good at is bringing tragedies, bloodshed to people. That's it. We can do our jobs without dogs. And make no mistake, he says, modern protection dogs are bred and trained to bite hard and to keep biting until recalled. He said that he's owned, trained, and handled dogs like these long enough to know that even the best trained dogs can make mistakes, especially in the chaotic, emotionally charged atmosphere that accompanies chasing a suspect. And it's not even a mistake. Like, you know, this is a good way to explain that video that we just watched of the dog that attacked the police officer. You know, that could be an example of what he's talking about, of how the dog made a mistake. But make no mistake, that mutt knew exactly. That mutt knew exactly. That wasn't no mistake. That dog was intentionally trying to attack that man because dogs are just that dumb. So what he meant to say was that even the best trained dogs are too dumb to use as weapons. That's what he meant to say. He said that's when a dog can go from being a useful tool to a deadly liability because it can't or won't process and respond to a recall command. I strongly support this bill. Without it, people whose only crime is to be in the path of a police dog will continue to suffer permanent, life-threatening injuries. This is even more reason why they should not be used. The injuries these things inflict are permanent. I just read a story about one unarmed victim who was permanently blind after the attack because the dog sunk its teeth into his eye sockets and gouged his entire eyeball out of the socket. So we have unarmed people who really don't need to be mutilated, people who can easily be detained, like this old man that I showed you. He could have detained that little old man. He didn't have to do that. And when you look at how long he allowed that dog to attack this old man, you clearly understand that this police officer was the biggest little sissy imaginable. This tiny little man. Yeah, let me share this. Let me share this so y'all can see it. So the attack starts around 18-second mark. Okay, 18-second mark. It's still attacking him now at the 35-second mark. Still attacking him. Still attacking him. We're at 38, 39, 42, 43, 46, 48. Okay, now it stopped. Okay, he didn't pull that dog off until 048. 49. It just bit him one more time. So from 18 seconds to 49, this tiny little frail old man. In the heat of the moment, a lot of people overreact. It takes a lot of self-discipline to think clearly in the heat of the moment for a lot of people. And for other people, it's no big deal. They're always calm in the middle of a storm. The people who get flustered and overreact, who, go off into a fit of rage, those are the type of people who will deploy a dog. You don't want people like that as police officers. You don't. The more cowardly the cop, the more likely he or she is to deploy a dog. And you got to understand, a lot of these dog lovers, they release their dog because they can't wait to see somebody getting mauled by a dog. During the police academy, that's all they think about. They just can't wait to release a dog on someone. You got lunatics like this out here. And if it's a very insecure, scary person, they're going to release that dog on everybody, any and everybody. And it definitely does not help that police departments all over the country have been infiltrated by extremely violent gangs, white supremacist gangs. That makes it even worse, because that means it's a little more likely that I get a dog sicked on me. Unbelievable. Unbelievable, man. This should not be a discussion. This should not be a debate. It's sad that this is even a subject. The fact that we're talking about this tells you how behind we are. People, we are playing catch up right now. Technologically, yeah, we've done some great things. I'm impressed. You want to talk about technology? I'm impressed. Humanity, not impressed at all. We still at ground zero. What good is technological advancement if in your heart and mind you still a flipping savage? You're a wicked, evil dirtbag. Now listen to this. This is the cop from Palm Springs. He wants to keep police dogs.
The chief of police in Palm Springs is speaking out against a proposed state law that would ban the use of police canines in making arrests. News Channel 3's Jake Ingrassia tonight has more on the legislation and why Palm Springs police say it could lead to more officer-involved shootings.
Okay, saying that if you get rid of the dogs, that will lead to more officer-involved shootings. I say, so what? So what? If that happens, then we know the cop deployed the weapon, not the weapon. The weapon didn't make the decision on its own. Why is it acceptable to torture unarmed victims? Why is that acceptable?
Chief Andy Mills here at Palm Springs Police Department says that canines are a key tool for successfully getting suspects to surrender. And he says an unintended consequence of that proposed California legislation could be increased police use of force. We suited up with Palm Springs Police Department's K9 unit, demonstrating how police dog Axel might apprehend a suspect. He bites down on my heavily padded arm.
He's trained to just stay in one spot, not come off.
Holding on to the target until an arrest can be made.
I understand. This is why it doesn't make sense to only ban bully breeds. Bully breeds are not the only dogs that bite down, hold, and shake. But with bully breeds, they were specifically bred for this type of attack and bred to kill and to attack unprovoked without being provoked, right? Yes. And to not show warning signs. Bully breeds are over the top. Over the top. There's no excuse for bully breeds being legal.
Can be made. Chief Andy Mills says the canines are a use of less lethal force.
They said police dogs are an example of less lethal force. Would you rather be maced or attacked by a dog? Yeah, you being stabbed repeatedly, that's a form of less lethal force. Okay.
That can prevent officers from having to use their weapons.
Just their mere presence alone. And
if you have to release a dog onto someone, you should only do that when it's life-threatening. It's a life-threatening situation. And you can't use physical force to detain them. But how likely is that? Yeah, no, I don't buy that.
Prevent officers from having to use their weapons.
Just their mere presence alone and the ability to carry through with a bite if we absolutely need to will make people throw down their guns.
So he's saying the cops can simply release a dog and some criminals will be so afraid that they'll throw down their gun, or the dog will attack them and, subdue them. So the cops themselves didn't have to shoot the person, and, and all of the cops are safe. None of them are shot. That's what he's saying. Right? But you still have an unarmed person who could have been surrendering, who's being tortured. No, that alternative is not acceptable. And you got to keep in mind, some of these victims are really very unhealthy, mentally unhealthy. Kids. Just show the story of a 14-year-old. And you look at history, man, there's a lot of stories. A lot of stories. There's no need to release a dog onto a 14-year-old. Really?
Officer David Etchison says it just happened on Tuesday when a suspected gunman in a shooting at a Palm Springs gas station surrendered as soon as police announced a canine was there.
He told me afterwards that he knew the dog was going to come and he didn't want to get bit, so that's why he surrendered.
Mills in the
Somebody at dumb, you could have dealt with him yourself. This guy at a gas station with a gun, they said that they have a dog, so he surrendered. Well, you could have said, hey, we got you surrounded. You think he wouldn't have surrendered? Could have got on your little bullhorn. They have those microphones, amplifiers, I think. All of the squad cars have it. And told him, hey, we got you surrounded. You don't think he would have surrendered? After you released the dog, he could have shot the dog and then started shooting at you. If he's about that life, you're going to have to deal with him with your gun eventually. So no, it sounds to me like the smart thing to do is to get rid of these brainless mutants and use your gun. Yeah, do that. I mean, if somebody rowdy enough to, you know, be robbing a store like that, then they're ready to die. They've made their mind up. Yeah, there's no need for no dog. That don't pass the aggression test.
K-9 officer David Etchison says it just happened on Tuesday when a suspected gunman in a shooting at a Palm Springs gas station surrendered as soon as police announced a K-9 was there.
He told me afterwards that he knew the dog was going to come and he didn't want to get bit, so that's why he surrendered.
Mills and the department are putting the benefits of K-9s on display while speaking out against proposed Assembly Bill 742, which, if passed, would ban police from using K-9s for apprehending people. The bill says in California, police dogs seriously injured 186 people in the last 2 years, more than batons or tasers. And it says they disproportionately affect people of color, who make up 65% of Californians that were seriously injured by K-9s in 2021. Chief Mills says in Palm Springs, in the last 5 years, dogs were deployed more than 1,400 times. Only 5 people were bitten in that period, the majority of them white men. And Palm Springs police dog Ike, who was shot by a suspect in 2011.
Come on, man. Stop this. Stop it. You babbling too much. People gonna lose focus of what they need to focus on. What we need to focus on is how ridiculous it would be if a police officer pulled out 2 daggers, one in each hand, and proceeded to repeatedly stab a person simply because they didn't put their hands behind their back, or simply because they're laid in their front lawn, laying down in the grass. There are too many stories like this, of cops. They can just respond to a break-in, trespassing, respond to suspicious person. They bring their dog, they see somebody, release it. No, that's too easy. That's why they need to be banned. It's what it opens the door to. Too many unnecessary attacks.
Dogs were deployed more than 1,400 times. Only 5 people were bitten in that period, the majority of them white men.
Who cares if only 5 people were bitten? We know how dangerous these things are. We know how dangerous they are. And if you deployed these mutants 1,437 times and only 5 people have been bitten, you know what that means? You don't need the dogs. That's what that means. You don't need them. And that would really make me happy if these things get banned in police departments, because a lot of these therapy dog programs are being controlled by police officers. Sometimes it's the police dog. They'll bring the police dog down there and use it as a therapy mutt for kids. Hey, come rub on the police dog. Yeah, come get over your xenophobia. No, thank you. Isn't that what that means? Am I missing something? You deployed a dog 1,437 times, 5 people were bitten. Are you saying that in each case the person surrendered? I assume that's what they're saying. So only a dog can catch a criminal. You have helicopters, you have motor vehicles, you got all kind of stuff. You can see at night. All kinds of technology. But you need a dog. Dogs are no longer necessary. This ain't the 1700s. And that's what they're doing. They're still trying to operate police departments the same way that slave catchers did. The earliest slave catchers were the police. The first police They were just slave catchers. And what's the primary tactic when you catching a slave? Release the dog on anyone you see. As soon as you see one, release the dog, which is very cowardly and stupid. Under no circumstances. This makes no sense under no circumstances. There's no way to spin this. They have no place on law enforcement.
Palm Springs police dog Ike, who was shot by a suspect in 2011, died protecting an officer.
Ike's wounds were fatal. The officers, returned fire and they dealt with the suspect, but Ike probably saved his handler's life that night.
PSPD restricts the use of...
Wait, now what? Let's back that up.
% of Californians that were seriously injured by canines in 2021. Chief Mills says in Palm Springs in the last 5 years, dogs were deployed more than 1,400 times. Only 5 people were bitten in that period, the majority of them white men. And Palm Springs police dog Ike, who was shot by a suspect in 2011, died protecting an officer.
Ike's wounds were fatal. The officers, returned fire and they dealt with the suspect, but Ike probably saved his handler's life that night.
PSPD restricts the use of...
Dumb dog did not save anybody's life. Dogs are not smart enough to save somebody's life. Stop with that.
Canines to violent crimes only. Chief Mills says taking them away will have a severe consequence.
There will be more officer-involved shootings because officers run out of options.
Listen. We would rather deal with a human brain. It does not make sense to put lethal authority into the hands of something that is primitive. Something with the brain of a dog. Under no circumstances does that make sense. Don't try to scare us with that gun talk. Oh, we'll use more guns. You don't want the guns now. Oh, guns are scary guns. No, we're okay. We understand it's a human brain completely controlling the gun. Now, don't get me wrong. There are still injustices if you're only using guns. But dogs are too much of a random lethal attack. A brainless, random, lethal attack is never necessary. So if now you're saying the attacks on the criminals are going to be not random, but thought out, that's all he's saying. He's saying that now when a criminal is shot or detained, it's going to be under the control of a brain that knows how to discern from good, bad, good guy, bad guy, criminal, friendly. Yeah, we're okay with that. You're not scaring nobody. Oh, do you use our guns? No, it still makes sense to get rid of them. Am I making sense? I hope I'm making sense.
Severe consequence.
There will be more officer-involved shootings because officers run out of options. And so this is a...
Stop with that. You got options. Look at all the toys the cops get. They have beanbag guns. I think they have these little guns that shoot something else, right? It's like not a beanbag, but it's like something else. Big rubber pellets. I think they got those too. Shoot like big rubber balls at you. Oh, do you got options? You got the bean bags, little pellets or whatever. You got the mace. You got the baton. You got all kind of stuff. Stop with that. Stop with that. See, this sounds like a person who wants to see people getting mauled. No, I don't trust that.
And so this is a very important tool for us to use.
This is dangerous. You got random people getting this much saliva in their wounds. You know how often people need their limbs amputated as a result of this? And it would be ridiculous if you just allowed cops to do stuff like this. As soon as a cop is involved, suddenly we expect the cop to use the least amount of force necessary, which makes sense. But if it's a dog, it can be as destructive as it wants. And it's all up to the dog how destructive it wants to be. And because it's so mutated, it attacks to kill. What are we talking about? If it's unacceptable for a human cop to carry out attacks like this against unarmed people who are surrendering, then it's unconstitutional for dogs to do it.
Use to disarm and de-escalate these violent encounters.
Mills urging lawmakers to be thoughtful and to keep canines on the force. Jaden Gracia.
No, I don't think so. So they failed the test. No, these things are not. You failed to prove that these things are sufficient or adequate to use as weapons for law enforcement officers. No, you failed. Not buying that. And that was a pathetic, weak, pathetic attempt to try to justify the use of these things. They got so many gadgets, they make robot dogs now, don't they? They make robot dogs. They make robots. All the technology we have today, you really gonna try to tell me, no, we still need dogs? That's pathetic. That's pathetic. Now, if I'm not mistaken, cops, they got all kinds of toys and little gadgets they can use. Non-lethal. Non-lethal. Okay, now let's check this out. Oh my goodness. This cop released his dog and shot the man with a beanbag. Lord, you shouldn't have scary little wimps in police departments.
That's seen unfolded on Cobb Parkway over the weekend.
You know, a lot of these guys, they're not, you should have somebody who's used to conflict to be a police officer. You know, make sure that they have grown up around conflict. It's better to have people than to have these lunatics who get all scared and terrified, and you know, you make a loud noise, they pull out their gun, start shooting, release the dog. All these dudes are cowardly.
Unfolded on Cobb Parkway over the weekend. Fox 5's Denise Dillon talked with Marietta police about how they managed to take the man down without anyone getting seriously hurt.
They used what's called a less lethal shotgun. They shoot bean bags about the size of a large gumball. Used correctly, they'll hurt, but they don't kill.
Beanbag him! Bag him! Bag him!
Body camera video shows Marietta police using a less lethal shotgun to take down this man, Zaki Kuntz. Police say Kuntz had just shoplifted from this store, True Prep.
Grabbed a hatchet and an axe and had run out the store.
Officer Jared Nudie saw the man walking down Cobb Parkway.
Did she say Officer Jared Nudie? She said that just as I was thinking to myself that this man almost looked naked walking down the street. Almost looked nudie himself. This man stole a hatchet and an axe and started walking down the street. This just looked like he got a t-shirt on. Who does that? You gonna shoplift? You just gonna take an axe and a hatchet? This sounds like a sick individual. Now, he sounds like he's not even American. But boy, this man was a threat. So what happened? You didn't need a dog in this case.
Police say Kuntz had just shoplifted from this store, True Prep.
Grabbed a hatchet and an axe and had run out the store.
Officer Jared Nudie saw the man walking down Cobb Parkway with the axe and hatchet and told him to put them down.
After the second command, he dropped it down to a grip that would be better for actually using the axes. So at that point, I knew he wasn't going to comply.
Other officers pulled up. Officer Brent Gunkel had a less lethal shotgun.
The situation had the potential to escalate in a very violent manner. If the ability was there for us to use it, the plan was to use it.
Police said Kuntz was holding the axe and hatchet in an aggressive manner and was walking near the...
He was holding it in an aggressive manner? Can someone explain to me what manner that is? Is this what they're talking about? Some of their choice of words, I'm sorry, it gets me sometimes. So if you're holding an axe or a hatchet down by your side like this, you're holding it in an aggressive manner. All right, we're learning something today. Sorry about that. Let's go back. Let's go back.
For us to use it, the plan was to use it.
Police said Kuntz was holding the axe and hatchet in an aggressive manner and was walking near this car dealership.
Man, it don't matter how you're holding an axe and a hatchet. You see somebody walking down the middle of the street with an axe and a hatchet, with just look like a big t-shirt on, yeah, you got a problem.
Walking near this car dealership, there were people nearby. When Kuntz refused to comply with any of their orders, Officer Gunkel fired off 4 beanbag rounds. After the 4th round, the man dropped the axe and hatchet. Officers rushed in and cuffed him.
Oh, so you didn't need a dog.
This is what the beanbags look like.
You're firing out of a shotgun a round with a charge. It's coming at you fast and furious. It's going to hurt when it lands.
Man, can you imagine being shot by multiple beanbags? You think you can't subdue someone with these? And it's just one option. This don't work, huh? You need dogs. That is pathetic. Cops down there trying to argue the need for, they ain't no need for dogs. It's 2023. They still talking like it's 1823. Get out of here. They want to always be able to terrorize and mutilate and torture. That's all it is. If you want dogs on the police force, it is because you desire to see people being tortured. That's what it is. And if you're a person about justice, you couldn't co-sign with even the possibility of unarmed people who are surrendering, getting mutilated and tortured. And that happens all the time.
Police say they don't often use them, but when they do, it can put an end to a potentially violent situation without anyone getting seriously injured.
At the end of the day, everyone went home safe.
Good job.
Okay, yeah, good job. Now, what was that? What were you saying about those dogs that you need so bad? Terrible. Terrible. Very counterproductive. Look at this. Police use of beanbags under scrutiny. Oh, bag rounds and rubber bullets. That's what I was thinking of. Rubber bullets. Well, it's better than blowing their brains out. Yeah, they can cause serious injury. But you sitting up there with an axe and a hatchet and a gun or whatever you got. And yeah, a dumb dog could start attacking the wrong person. An innocent bystander. We just saw a dog attacking the police officer. That's not going to happen with a beanbag. You know, it's not going to veer off to the left or to the right and attack some kid playing on the playground. What if you deploy a stupid mutt and it actually sees a toddler somewhere. And then it's what prey drive kicks in. You know, they always prefer to attack a smaller target. So it's smarter to have something like that on the police force. What is this, man? Now, I bet you I could be here all day going over these videos where beanbags were used successfully. These videos that showcase how efficient these things are. Oh. Beanbag dropped him. Oh, no, he wasn't dropping. He's standing, he's got something in his hand. Is that like a metal rod or something? Okay, they haven't shot him yet. He got a stick. They said, put the stick down. He said, get away from me. No. Let me get that copyright. Put the stick down. Okay, how long are they gonna do this? I want to see. Okay, they're loading up the beanbag. I think she's got it now. They're doing a whole lot of talking. See, I couldn't be a police officer. I couldn't spend all this time going back and forth. My tolerance for stupidity is very, very short. Okay, he just loaded up. What in the world? I can't believe there's people this crazy out in the world. You got a stick. You swinging a stick at a cop. Really? It's multiple cops. And you grab a stick and start attacking them? This dude, he's actually trying to hide behind a pole. There are some very sick people out here in the world, man. This guy clearly out of his mind. Here you go, beanbag him. Yeah, I have to test or check the efficiency of beanbags. Wow. He just think he gonna walk away from the cops. There was a cop in the street. They got him surrounded. Got him surrounded and everything. Wow. This dude is plumb crazy. Isn't that crazy? You could be next to a person this crazy in the grocery store. You in Walgreens or Walmart. You don't know who it is, but some funny looking dude. Look at his shorts. Look at this guy. Look like he got on leggings. What in the world? Okay, when did they be? Okay, they already shot him. Yeah, they already shot him. That's why he lost his pole. Okay, they didn't shoot him. It was just a threat. The threat of getting shot. They said to use beanbag round. Well, if they shot it already, then it must not have hurt that bad. He was still holding the stick. He put the stick down voluntarily. Oh man, yeah, I couldn't be no police officer. I'm sorry, I couldn't deal with these crazy people, man. So look, we know that cops have alternatives. Don't try to lay that on us. That's the worst argument possible, is that there are no alternatives. You can still get would-be criminals to surrender. Okay, yes, you can. And actually, if you release dogs on to someone, they're more likely to shoot the dog. So, you know, you'll have to use your gun anyways. They'll probably be less likely to shoot a real police officer. Probably wouldn't have a chance. Police officers smart enough to duck behind a vehicle or a corner, building, shoot. You know, they can do all kind of stuff. Suppressive fire. They could use military tactics on you. Subdue the criminals intelligently. Everything we do should involve intelligence. So dogs shouldn't play a role in anything that we do. Anything, unless it's euthanizing them. Make no mistake, all these large dogs need to be gotten rid of. We've seen several videos like this of dogs that are not bully breeds. They're not bully breeds, but they still bite down, hold, and shake. Bite down, hold, and shake. Now, in a lot of these articles, they do talk a lot about the racial origin and the history of police dogs being used as weapons against unarmed, innocent, law-abiding Black Americans. They talk a lot about that in a lot of these articles, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. It should be pointed out, especially if we're the primary ones getting dogs released on us. However, don't be misled. Don't let that discourage you or distract you. Do not start to buy into this idea that police dogs are just a Black problem, are just a Black male problem. No, they're a problem for everybody, right? I just don't want people to get the wrong idea when they do their research into this ban. I'm going to keep an eye on it, of course, to see what happens. But don't frame it as something that's being done for Blacks. Oh, this is for the Blacks. No. No. But most people smart enough to know that. This is a problem, because if they're banned, that's a huge first step. If they're banned in police departments, that will make it much easier to ban them in other places. You see, any type of ban against dogs in any way is a good thing. I tip my hat to these different businesses that say no dogs allowed. I've given them shout outs in pubs on my channel. Like, hey, this restaurant kicks out people with dogs. Hey, eat here. Yeah? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. A real good first step. Because these dogs, they're allowed into different places one step at a time. So we have to remove them from these places one step at a time. And the thing is, if they're banned in police departments, it makes the argument so much easier that these things should not be ushered into schools and libraries and pushed onto people, primarily kids, as creatures that they should walk up to and rub on whenever they see them. If these things are so dangerous that police departments had to ban them because they're so dangerous, you can't argue that they're kid friendly. Under no stretch of the imagination, you cannot argue that they even belong in homes across the country. This is a case where dog lovers themselves are questioning dogs in society. It just happens to be in the form of police using dogs. So yeah, I'm excited about this. State lawmaker introduces bill to ban the use of police dogs for arrest and crowd control. There's a lot of articles on it. But all of the reasons of why they should be banned are relevant. And you should be able to use any one of those reasons. But here you really got multiple. You got multiple. Now what is this? Yeah, stuff like this. A dog just jumps in and starts attacking somebody inside a vehicle. Now wait a minute. Let's back this up.
Help end dangerous standoffs and control rowdy crowds. Police canines are used to help end dangerous standoffs and control rowdy crowds. But tonight there is a call to ban dogs from working in law enforcement. Inland Empire Assembly member Corey Jackson says the dogs cause too many injuries.
Man, they can't wait to sick one of these dogs on people. This is like a freak show. Let me tell y'all something. There is a sick population. No, we'll come back to that. Let's finish
He
this.
co-authored legislation to limit their use, but those training the dogs see things differently.
Once you use your taser, it's on its way. You're not stopping it. The only thing you can stop is a canine.
Whether they be nerve damaged, some cases people are losing an eyeball or a testicle or something else, right?
Yeah, I just talked about that. And that story just surfaced here. That's a recent story where the man lost his eye, had his eye gouged out. The injuries are never ending. The dislocated jaw of a lot of kids when they're attacked, their jaw is dislocated because their dog fangs sink down into the open portion of their jaw, rip it right out. Like, come on, man, what are you talking about?
A lifelong injury, and you still have yet to be proven guilty of anything yet.
See? Yeah, of course that don't make sense. Permanent, lifelong injury, and you have not even been proven guilty. You could be innocent. They should not be allowed to just release a dog randomly on to people. And you saw this dog was attacking this guy, and there looked like about 10 cops out there.
According to Jackson, he's enforcement Inland Empire Assembly member. It's a call
Let's
to
back that
ban
up.
dogs from works. Canines are used to
Look at that. Wait a minute.
help end dangerous standoffs and control rallies.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cops. 8 cops. They had this guy in a flipping shed. Guns drawn. So why'd they release the dog? You don't think this guy would have surrendered? Well, if he don't surrender, hit him with a beanbag. You got him surrounded. What he gonna do? All these cops got bulletproof vests on and weapons. You still feel helpless without the dog? Stop. You see what I'm saying? That's a pathetic excuse. That sounds like a bloodthirsty lunatic. Here, the state has given you guns, beanbag guns, guns that shoot rubber bullets, tasers, all kinds of laser beams and gadgets, robot dogs, batons, right? Handcuffs, all kinds of weapons. And you still feel helpless? You still scared? You still need a dog, huh? That is pathetic. They know that is nonsense.
Canines are used to help end dangerous standoffs and control rowdy crowds, but
that was for sport.
Tonight there is a call to ban offs and
that's for sport. Don't tell me you can't call backup. Don't tell me you... No, that's for sport. And again, you tell him to get on the ground, he refused, hit him with a beanbag. That is under the control of a human being.
Control rowdy crowds, but tonight there is a call to ban dogs from working in law enforcement. Inland Empire Assembly member Corey Jackson says the dogs cause too many injuries. He co-authored legislation to limit their use, but those training the dogs see things differently.
Once you use your taser, it's on its way. You're not stopping it. The only thing you can stop is a canine.
Whether they
You hear that?
nerve damage, some cases people are losing an eyeball, or whether they be nerve damage.
Once you use your taser,
did you hear what he said?
It's on its way. You're not stopping it.
Once you use your taser, it's on its way and you're not stopping it.
The only thing you can stop is a canine.
The only thing you can stop is a dog. They never stop these dogs. When they release those dogs always attack somebody. They never stop. And quite often, they can't even get the dog off of the victims. And as many people have pointed out, they choose to not call the dog off the victim. They deliberately refuse to call the dog off. So yeah, don't give me that. Don't give me that. A taser is far more humane than using a dog. Don't sit up there and try to project dogs as a more humane, civilized tactic or tool. Compared to a taser, you have to have some nerve to make that argument.
Whether they be nerve damaged, some cases people are losing an eyeball or a testicle or something else, right? A lifelong injury, and you still have yet to be proven guilty of anything yet.
According to Jackson, he says nearly 2/3 of all people seriously hurt or killed by police canines in California were black or Latino.
Listen, it will be much easier to argue against dogs in restaurants, in hospitals, in schools, everywhere, even in our communities. It'll be a lot easier if we can refer to the fact that police departments have banned them. And even if they don't ban them, we can point out that they had a serious discussion about it. That a whole lot of them wanted it done. So, the work is done. No matter what happens going forward, whether they ban them or not, we got you to talk about it. Don't that feel good? To think clearly and to make smart decisions? People, I feel like I'm always aware of my surroundings. It's all about adapting to your environment. I grew up here in America. So as I grew up, I started to study everything about America. And I started to study the people who populate America. Right? I studied the history of Mexico, Mexican history, as well as Asian. And I mean all throughout Asia, Laos, Malaysia, you name it. On a nerd level, I know the history of these different places. I studied the history of Africa, of Europe. And what I found is that all groups at some point in time, and sometimes all throughout their history, some groups have always taken part in very negative, destructive behaviors. One thing that stands out in regard to me and my group is tribalism. I'm very receptive and sensitive to people with tribal mentalities. I grew up despising the East Coast, West Coast rivalry. I despised black on black violence and hostility. Still do. Despised it. And I started to associate it with the tribal mentality, where you had, when we reflect on history as Black Americans, we reflect on everything and everybody. I get annoyed with people who just think it's a campaign against white people. No, we criticize what we were doing. The Dahomey tribe capturing their own people and selling them to foreigners. That's a disgrace no matter who you are. You sell your own people to foreigners, sell your own people to anyone. That's a disgrace. And that's a mistake you don't ever want to make again. So, our own behavior contributed to that problem. So I'm very receptive to the tribal mentality, and I lash out when I see very unnecessary black on black hostility. Right? But also, I've noticed that all throughout European history, there has always been a segment of lunatics. You study all groups, you're going to find that in those groups, you have a certain sector of lunatics. You have some in Mexico, every single country, every single group you can think of. Don't get started on Mexico. In fact, they're so buck wild down there, I don't even feel safe saying anything about them. Let's just say even the police departments down there don't mess with some of those lunatic thugs. Every country, every group has its sect of absolute bona fide lunatics. Everyone. And what I've noticed is that with Europeans, there's always been a sect of complete lunatics. And they're going to look for a reason to express their lunacy somehow. And what I found is that racism is it's like a distraction from the true problem. Because even before slavery, you had Europeans torturing and getting off on seeing other Europeans tortured, killed, enslaved. Look at the sick tortures, the beheadings. I went over that before here, didn't I? Oh, yeah. I love going over these. I love looking into this stuff. I learned that during medieval times, there was a lot of crazy, very crazy stuff going on. And basically what you have is simply a sect of complete lunatics. A sect of complete lunatics who get off on harming other people. And they will take whatever reason they can, whatever reason is available, whatever scapegoat, whatever proxy. If it's not because you're black, or it's because you speak this language, right? You belong to this group. There's going to be lunatics expressing their lunacy, no matter where you find them. Now, don't get me wrong. That don't take the foot off the neck of the lunatic racists. I'm just saying, I think it's deeper than just racism. You got to remember, a lot of these so-called racists, they're at home endangering their own kids. They're at home not giving a squat about their own kids' safety, sacrificing their kids, putting dogs above their kids, dehumanizing their own kids. Think about that. Are we just dealing with a certain sect of lunatics here?
Rats. The excessive fear of rats and mice is known as musophobia.
Oh yeah. They dump rats on you. Let rats eat you.
Often used by Catholic inquisitors to suppress heresy.
Do you know that all of this, rats, really? And you'd have spectators. It's because there was a sect of people who got off on seeing other people tortured. Yeah.
The medieval inquisitions began in the 12th century with the Cathars in southern France. Heretics were regarded as a danger to the church and needed to be dealt with. The heretic's fork was made from metal and had 4 teeth, 2 at either end of a metal rod. A leather strap was attached to the device and wrapped around the victim's neck, tightly causing further discomfort. One end of the fork would be placed under the soft, fleshy part of the chin, the other on the hard breastbone. The torturer would be very careful when choosing the length of the tool because his goal was to cause optimum distress. For the prisoner, just the action of swallowing their own saliva would have been incredibly painful.
Oh man. So you fall asleep? You let your head tilt down? Huh?
Headache would also take hold because of the tension used to constantly hold up the head.
Oh my. Oh my. Do you see what I'm saying? This was done because there was a bloodlust. There was a part of a certain sect that got off on people being tortured.
Some way, usually from the ceiling. After a few hours of being held in this way, the muscles in both the shoulders and neck would become very stiff and begin to fail. A very painful headache would also take hold because of the tension used to constantly hold up the head. Even if the prisoner was able to stand this pain, sleep deprivation would eventually take hold, and the head would droop forward as the victim nodded off. Then the sharp prongs would pierce the neck and throat. The fork was only used for a limited amount of time as a means of getting the prisoner to recant. It was never meant to kill. It was usually the first in a number of tortures that would lead to more punishment.
Blasphemy. They were tortured for blasphemy. So, if we're not going to torture you because you're black, then we're going to torture you because you speak a different language. If you don't speak a different language, we're going to torture you because you said something that we don't like. Okay? This is their sect of lunatic. In Black America, we have our own sect of complete and utter lunatics. And anybody defending dogs on the police force, you simply are one of these people who would have been in the audience, in the front row at these torture ceremonies with popcorn in hand. You just enjoy the thought and idea, hopefully the sight of someone being stabbed repeatedly and tortured. That's unconstitutional. The whole country should be outraged at the use of dogs in the police force, man.
First used by the Holy Inquisition in 12th century France when it was known as the wooden donkey, this was a triangular shaped box with the sharp pointed end at the top, like where a horse's back would have been. Planks were nailed together to form the structure, which was usually between 6 or 7 feet high and was supported by 4 legs fixed to a stand. A horse's tail and simulated head might be attached to the device,
and they make you sit on this thing.
They could be kept in this position for hours to suffer the most excruciating pain. Sometimes their feet would be tickled to make them wriggle about or wait.
Now, I'm sure those people came up with some elaborate excuse or argument as to why this is a smart thing to do. Just like they arguing right now that having dogs is smart and helpful, you can make an argument for anything, no matter how ridiculous it is. You can't tell me that there was not a set of people who got off on seeing people tortured. That's just what it is. Okay? And they're not going nowhere. Notice, over time, they just acquire different outlets to express their lunacy. Scary stuff. You know, I admire the intelligence of humans, but their wickedness, you know, it balances it out.
Might be added to their legs to pull down the body and increase.
Actually, let me take that back. Yeah, intelligence. Yeah, let me take that back. It's not balanced out. Right now, we're far dumber and more savage than we are evolved and intelligent. That's how it is. You know, I'm ashamed to say that, but that's how it is.
The agony. If death was the ultimate goal, then the victim would be left there until the sacral bone at the base of the spine broke and they were split in two.
This was nothing but bloodthirst, people. Bloodthirst. There's a sect of people who are just like that. We got to accept that. But when you're mindful of that, it's easier to spot them when you listen to the things that they say. Oh, canines, you deploy a taser, you can't bring it back. Also, what? Somebody gets tasered? Stop. They're not stabbed repeatedly. Their blood's not leaking all over the place. They got tasered. But the dog, okay.
Metal and named for its shape. It had 3 or 4 leaves or petals that could open or close with the use of a key that rotated the central screw thread. The device would be inserted into the victim dependent upon the crime committed. With just the turn of a screw, the torturer would expand the device and the pointed end of the pair would rip into the throat area, causing massive internal damage and blood loss. If the prisoner didn't die from their injuries, they would almost always die from infection later, as the pairs were never washed between victims. There are several choke pairs in museums across Europe. They range from crude examples to the elaborately ornate, such as the bronze model held at the Torture Museum in San Gimignano, Italy. The saw.
Oh my goodness, stop. Now, here's the thing. During this time, there were a lot of people who were not into this. But you don't hear from them. They don't stand out in history. Right? They're not seen as interesting. When actually, they're the most important people in history. The people who were not down with this. Now, many of them were killed. Nobody wrote about them. But we have to speak up, man. Okay? And accept this. There are a lot of crazy people. Lot of crazy people out here right now. Right now. And I think you prove that you're one of those crazy people if you support the presence, the existence of large, vicious dogs. I hate to exclude it to large dogs, but I gotta be realistic. I gotta be realistic. Because that's a heavy charge. Right? I'm charging you with being one of these lunatics who just get off on seeing people in pain, hurting, and being tortured. You just want to see torture. That's what you want to see. That's why you want dogs on the police force. You want stuff like this. You want to see stuff like this. Lunatic. No. No, no. Just like we don't cater to this type of treatment today, the use of dogs should be left in the history books, just like all of this was left in the history books. Just like we evolved beyond this savagery right here, there's still some more steps to take. This is shameful. Yes, ban them. The police supposed to set an example. And they are said to serve and protect. You can't be no protector if you support dogs. You hauling dogs around and releasing them on people. You don't know who that dog might attack. Right? Unlawfully torturing people who surrendering to you and unarmed. Come on, man. The only thing that's keeping dogs in these police forces is a sick bloodthirst that many of these people have. And it needs to be dealt with, man.
The victim would stay conscious for longer. After being hung there for several hours, the victim was subjected to other forms of torture and humiliation before the main punishment.
Now, there had to be people who carried this out. So there had to have been a guy on one end and a guy on the other end. Do you think they were disgusted by the fact they had to saw people in half? No, they probably got off on it. Oh, yeah, that sucker took a long time to die, didn't he? They are, lunatics. They're a part of that lunatic sector. And hey, it's time to address this sector of the population. It's time to address everybody. Everybody and all of your dysfunctional behavior. It's time to check everybody. Oh, yes. It's the moment of reckoning. It's time to face the music now. It's time to face the music. So I'm going to keep an eye and ear out and see what they do, see what happens here. I'm happy that we are taking steps towards being civilized. They might be small steps, but I feel like we're taking steps towards justice in multiple ways. Yeah, I'm very excited about it. Now is the time to speak out about whatever you're passionate about. Right? Whether it can be whatever. whatever group you may belong to, ethnic group, racial group, you know, I've noticed that there are a lot of white people in America who find it hard to find anything in their history to be proud of. Don't be silly. All groups pick and choose what they want to be proud of in their history, because all groups got good and bad in their history. Right? Yeah. You know, some people think that the only way they can be proud of their history is if they're proud of the evil things that their people did in history. Not the case. Like when I talk about pride in my history, I'm not talking about the slave traders. I'm not talking about the black people who participated, who enslaved me, obviously. I'm not talking about the wicked things that were done throughout history. Come on, man. We're all people. We're all human. We're all human. And we're all capable of wickedness. But if humans stop striving for balance, it's a wrap. And right now, this world is lean heavily, disproportionately on the wicked, savage side. And it's time to wake up. Yes, take these mutants off of the police force. After we do that, after they're banned from the police departments, stop bringing them into schools around this country. Stop it. That is the most hated and despised. That's where we need to start. Stop ushering these things into schools. If they're so dangerous that cops, police departments have stopped using them, how can you possibly defend bringing them into schools, teaching prepubescent kids to walk up to them and rub on them when they see them? There's no way you can justify that. That's the perfect first step to a dog-free society. Yes, ban them in police departments. They serve no real purpose. They're not beneficial. They're not more advantageous than anything else or than nothing else. Everything else is more effective, safer, okay? And it all involves human control. We should never be at the mercy of a wild animal. You understand that? Never, under no circumstances should they have the upper hand over us, least of all our family. I know I'm not going to get nowhere with people who are willing to endanger their own family. That's the sad part about this movement, man, is that no matter what, there's some people you'll never get through to. If they haven't sensed danger, even though they got pit bulls up in their house with their babies and kids, there's nothing that's going to wake them up. You know what? Let me not say that. I'm going to take that back. I take that back. There have been pit bull lovers who've turned heel and are now anti-dog. Our message is powerful enough to reform anybody. It just doesn't happen that often. I will say that. But as long as it's possible, I'm motivated to do the talking. Right? I'll be a hucklebearer. I'm motivated to do the talking, to contribute to a few lectures. Okay? Now, this is important because we'll be addressing a cancer among us. We'll be eliminating a cancer among us. This dog culture, it's a cancer. This is a step in the right direction. And once they're gone, I believe people will be more peaceful in general. The presence of dogs, I think, makes people want to be violent themselves. A lot of these guys, you see them with pit bulls. It's because they want to look tough. You know, they feel like it gives them sort of a violent appearance, a tough appearance. So things like that can influence you. Hostility is very contagious. I've seen people have an argument early in the morning. People in authority who have important positions like a supervisor or whatever, getting a childish, heated argument in the morning. And then by the end of the day, a few more people have gotten into an argument. The hostility is contagious. Well, the stupidity is contagious as well. That's the downside with human beings. Stupidity can become normalized. We can desensitize ourselves to the most wicked of behaviors. And throughout history, that has been people's main problem. Different points throughout history desensitizing themselves to wickedness and to things that don't make any sense, that are dumb, counterproductive, unintelligent. That's where our emotions come into play. Part of our evolvement, it has to involve setting our emotions aside. You got to set your emotions aside and deal with reality. Especially if you're coming off like a confused person, a confused government. You up here making endangerment laws. You're making laws, but not including the most dangerous violator of those laws. Yeah, not smart. So I believe, I know that's a bold statement. That might be a little unfair. It might be a little unfair. But that's what I believe. The dog culture, I think, started with it was just a portion of the European population, a segment of the population who were just dog lovers. They brought it over here. The black Americans primarily didn't like them because, they were used to attack black people. But it didn't take long for black people to become nutters. So now we got a certain segment of the black American population, nutters. So now we really have a problem. We have other groups who come to the United States. Some of them may not have been a fan of dogs, but this is a dog culture. Some of them become nutters. So now you have Asian nutters. You got black American nutters, white American nutters. Okay? But what it does, it draws out the lunatics. I can applaud it. Because anybody who's a fan of these things and owns them, we know you're part of that lunatic crowd. I know that might be unfair to say, but you got a serious craziness, and you're seriously desensitized if you don't look at bully breeds as a threat. Something ain't right. No. That's beyond just a difference of opinion. And, oh, I just see things different perspective. No, you're a little off. You up here falling asleep, got your whole family asleep. You got large dogs in the house. No. You're under the influence of some strong Kool-Aid. And you should be ashamed of that. You should be ashamed to be influenced by lunatics. Most definitely. So stupidity is well, I can't even say that, because it's more than just stupid. When you can't even identify a threat and act on it, you don't even have basic instincts at that point. You're just as savage as you could possibly be. The only thing I can compare that with is, lunatics like this, coming up with these crazy ways to torture people. And, let's make everything a crime. Let's make everything a crime so we can see these tortures often, at least once a month. Here in the United States, they call it picnic, where they would have the lynchings, have whole big crowds of people. It brings out the lunatics. So with this dog culture, it brought out the lunatics in the Black American population. I'm sorry. And look, I got a lot of love for the dog lovers. But listen, you got a family especially. I don't care if you got a family or not. And you got a large dog. Yeah, you're under the influence of that Kool-Aid. You're one of the savages that the dog culture has brought out. So we're living in an age where people's true character is starting to surface. And I just hope that you recognize it and work against it. Work against it. Don't be a lunatic. The only way to enjoy life for eternity is to fight for what's right. Obey your instincts. Obey the laws of the universe. One of those laws is to protect your life. Protect your very existence. Protect your life with your life. And protect the life of your offspring with your life. That means you keep all predators away. Far away. Far out of your sight. That is required to be a basic human being. That's human beings in our basics, the most basic. Because at that level, we're on the exact same level as wild animals. Right? We're all on the same level. Man, oh man. Yeah, it's just a little too much for me. A little too much for me. Yeah, I don't understand why or how we've even gotten this far. Searching a home for a home invasion. So yeah, that's what happened. It was a home invasion suspect. Came across a teen lying face down in the grass. Says, and it's Yahoo. Without warning, the dog was ordered to bite the 14-year-old who posed no immediate threat, despite the teen staying prone and pleading okay, help, get the dog, please, officers stood over him, shouting orders for nearly 30 seconds while the dog gnawed on his arm, said the DOJ. Wow. As the unidentified teen lay with one hand behind his back and the other in the dog's mouth, another policeman was observed yelling, "Stop fighting my dog." Sort of how they'll bum rush someone and then they'll say, "Stop resisting." They'll start beating the life out of someone, and all the while they'll yell, "Stop resisting." The person that's getting beaten on, he's balled up, trying to protect himself, and they're yelling, "Stop resisting, stop resisting." Yeah, that sounds like this. "Stop fighting my dog." You sitting there getting chewed up. You bleeding all over the place. And you're telling them, "Okay, get your dog, please, help. Stop fighting my dog." It opens the door. It's too easy for this to happen. Too easy for it to happen. So I don't think it should take long. It shouldn't take long. If this is if this will be decided by a team of people, sort of like a jury, it shouldn't take no longer than 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Come out, and now in California, dogs are banned from the police force. That's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear. Okay? I don't want to hear no muzzle. All right? There's no alternative, and there's no justifiable reason for cops in 2023 to still be using dogs. Y'all see what I've been talking about for a long time. And I've seen this, I see this in so many ways. How we drag old primitive lifestyles into the modern era. It's very crazy. Nothing depresses me more than to see people stuck in this stage where they can't evolve anymore. That really irks me to no end. Irks me to no end, man. And for the life of me, I can't understand, I can't wrap my head around how we've dragged this culture, not just dog culture, but having dogs on the police force now after we've made all this technological advancement. You can read people's license plates from outer space. You got gadgets that high tech, right? You got literal robots. You got robots. We're in a technological age like that, and you're still trying to make an argument for dogs. We've evolved far beyond dogs technologically. But our intelligence, what is going on? That lets you know technological advancement, that has nothing to do with real intelligence. Now, you can still be a complete lunatic and create a neat gadget. Oh, there's a difference. Yeah. You could have absolutely no morals, no connection with humanity whatsoever, but you can make a neat toy. I'm not impressed. I'm more impressed with the nation who has morals and maybe not have the infrastructure, the technology, but those people protect their kids. They don't endanger their kids. They don't repeatedly stab someone who's unarmed and surrendering. yeah, I got to respect that country a little more. And you know what? They would be deserving of technological advancement. All the help that they would need, they would deserve it. So fingers crossed, let's hope this ban goes through and spreads to the rest of the country. Yeah. Oh, man. Y'all have no idea. A lot of people reach out. They reach out. They contact me. Because you got to imagine, over the years, I've talked about a lot of people, family. You know, I've dealt with cases. And some people will listen to the story, and it's their sister, it's their cousin. You know, a lot of people have and they're reevaluating dogs in general. Like, they're doing a reassessment, you know, of how they look at dogs. We got an important job here. It's an important job here we do. It don't feel like a job. I feel like we just, you know, have discussions. But it's real important that people somewhere talk about what's right. And I think that's all that's been missing. That's all that's been missing. And that's the only reason, that's the only way evil triumphs, is when good people are silent. That is so true. I know that's some type of slogan or whatever. It's very, very, very true. Because if the wicked, if they just hear you talking about their behavior, they're going to have to put it in check, at least a little bit, in some way. Our presence alone is powerful. So let's get comfortable talking about this nuttery. But think about that. We got police departments talking about it. Police departments talking about it. If we can get them talking about it, or at least question dogs, like I said, you can get every other institution and put them in the hot seat for allowing dogs, even though the police departments have gotten rid of them. That'll be fuel to attack everything. And I'm going to start with the schools. People, what is going on? I've been on here almost 3 hours. 2 hours and 43 minutes. Why haven't you stopped me? Has anyone tried to stop me from talking? Almost 3 hours I've been on here. Good Lord, what is wrong with me? I need to take tomorrow off. Or something. I need a day off, another day off. I might not make it. So I hope you all will be able to join me whenever I get back on. I need to get off for health reasons. Good Lord, it can't be good to talk for 3 hours. Shout out to all of you. And I hope to see you back on the next live stream as we continue with this crusade.